And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Monday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Today's podcast brought to you by About Golf Simulators, right there behind me glowing. I'm getting ready to jump into the sim here this afternoon and to shoot some content, which includes a swing breakdown of the Masters champion, Mr. Jon Rahm, who went head-to-head, couple alpha dogs down the stretch on Sunday with Brooks Koepka, got a second major win. That's 4 wins now, folks, in the calendar year. 4. And we're not even in the middle of April. It's Century, Amex, Genesis, the Masters. What a run. Lots to talk about. Masters, nice performance with a number of LIV players. Well, I want to get into that. Some big news across the pond. DP World Tour, of course, wins the legal battle there against LIV. And what does all that mean as golf is in full swing? Great follow on Twitter. It's called Flushing It. And he joins me across the pond here today. Flush, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining me.
Great. Thanks, Travis. Thanks for inviting me. How's the weather over there?
Well, look, we just got the storm here in Ponte Vedra that was in Augusta. Augusta is just 4 hours north of us here. And so we're getting some wind and rain and cooling off here, but it's going to warm up. It's golf. Spring is here. The snow is melting, and then the Masters hits, and the birds are chirping. Not exactly on Saturday, but the sun did come out on Sunday. And look, it wasn't one of the most memorable Masters of all time. It certainly had a lot of hype leading into it with Tiger playing and these LIV players coming back for the first time with PGA Tour players. And it's set up for a head-to-head battle, right? Jon Rahm, Brooks Koepka. A lot of people look PGA Tour versus LIV Golf. And, Jon Rahm just proved out to be the best player in the field. He got the bad end of the draw, and he sustained through all of that and just put the field away, winning by 4. Your thoughts on the Spaniard, Jon Rahm, and his performance?
What a man. I love Jon. I think he's probably my favourite player at the moment. So he's just dominant. He's great off the course as well. Just all of his interviews are so thoughtful and so insightful. I really do like Jon, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was to now go in sort of out of everybody that's on tour at the moment. If he was to go and complete the career Grand Slam first, it wouldn't actually surprise me if that happened. And he's only on 2. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. It seems like a strong take, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
So you're saying Jon Rahm, maybe the first to the career Grand Slam. He's going to get there before Jordan Spieth, who needs one more, right? And of course, Rory McIlroy, who missed the cut. We'll get into that in a second. By the way, Rory McIlroy, as we come on, just withdrew from Harbortown next week, which is a bit of a surprise. But Rahm gets there before Rory, you think, in the career Grand Slam? 2 to go?
I think so. Yeah, Rory's kind of proved again this week that he just has this in his head round Augusta. Like, he's coming in the best form he's been for a while at this stage of the year. He had everything going his way. Soft condition golf course, which we think should suit him. And he's just been playing so well, and I thought he was going to at least challenge this week. And for him to come out and finish behind Bryson, that's quite surprising, isn't it? So,
well, I think it's interesting with Rory. Rory's going to take some shots right now. It's easy for him to probably be the punching bag a little bit. He goes out non-competitive, misses the cut, wasn't even close. A lot of stuff happening off the course. Some interesting conversations over the last couple weeks. Had Hunter Mayhem on last week, and we were talking about how, the PGA Tour, it doesn't seem like anybody from the executive side is out there fielding questions, taking maybe some heat off of some of these players. Rory, obviously, kind of for all intents and purposes, a bit of the face of the PGA Tour, and he has to field all these questions because there's no one from the executive side, at least that I know, from the PGA Tour that's fielding some of these questions. So he's taken on a lot. Is it fair to say that, there's probably some fatigue there, with Rory? I mean, he's having to battle not only his own game on the course, but he's having to take on this PGA Tour versus LIV to some degree off.
Yeah, totally. And he did. I thought that the 7 rounds, I think it was 7 rounds that he played in the match play, was probably quite a bit of a hindrance to him as
Yep.
well, because he looked knackered when he was playing in that the fourth playoff match. I know he won it, but he didn't look like he had the energy left. And I know he had the week off, but he played a lot of golf at Augusta coming in, and maybe he did over prep and just played too much. Which is really quite a fascinating. If you look at how the LIV guys are prepared for the Masters, and they've only played 3 times, had a really long off season. They haven't really, had the same sort of intensity that the PGA Tour players had, which people thought would work in the PGA Tour players' advantage. But it looks as though it's actually been the other way, and coming in fresh seems to have helped the LIV guys, because we saw some really good performances, in particular from Phil, who just rolled back the years and just looked incredible, didn't he? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see as they go to the PGA, because they got a little travel schedule ahead of them, right? They got to go to Australia, then Singapore, back to Tulsa 3 times before we'll see him at the PGA at Oak Hill. Of course, the PGA Tour, another elevated event this week at Harbor Town. It's interesting. We'll go back to Rahm here for a second. Rahm, this time last year, when we were talking about Jon Rahm, he was going through a slump. His putting was probably as bad as it's been in his entire career at this point last year. His short game was in disarray. He was still hitting the ball pretty good. He had 55th at the Players, 27th at the Masters, and then he decided to play the next week in Mexico, which many were surprised because it was a weak field. And it was like, wow, Rahm's playing here. And so he wins that event. And then he kind of just started to put the pieces back together. And all of a sudden, his short game reemerged, and the putter has really gotten hot as of late. As I mentioned, 4 wins now here in this calendar year. Koepka comes in, and I was all over him. I watched him play LIV. I was texting with his coach, Claude Harmon, and I said, look, it looks like he's hitting his driver as good as he was back in 2019. I played him to win at 55 to 1, 65, 67 to open up. Count your money. Here we go. How surprised were you to see him go 73, 75 on the weekend? I didn't see that coming.
No, not at all, especially not on Sunday. I thought that he was going to get the job done, to be honest, but he showed some vulnerability. It was a real shame, because I was hoping for that real heavyweight tussle where they were just going blow for blow down the stretch, but it just ended up being a bit of a procession for Rahm on the back 9. But Brooks probably needs to. He lost a lot of confidence, as you could see from the Netflix series last year, and he obviously just needs to get back into that position a couple more times, and he might well get back his clinical edge and being able to close out these events. But it was surprising to me in that, as good as he was playing, like when I'm watching him on Sunday, everything was just, laboring around. Like his driver, he was hitting a lot of poles. The irons were, just scrapey. Didn't look like he was hitting them real solid. The short game, I guess he got up and down a few times. It was okay. The putting, you could see the distance controls off. It was just, everything was kind of off. All 14 clubs, where right before that, he's just hitting on all cylinders. I mean, he's hitting this little peel fade out there perfectly. His irons are in position. He's making putts. It's like, oh my God, this is Brooks Koepka of the old. So it was good to see, because look, love or hate Brooks, I love seeing him in the mix. The alpha dog, he's a little arrogant. He can have a little chip on his shoulder. I like it. The PGA Tour misses some of these guys. So it was cool to see him back in the mix again. And I think more importantly than that, he's healthy, right? I mean, he's healthy again. Yeah. And now this experience is going to bode really well for him, I would have to think, in the next few majors, don't you think? Yeah, I agree, definitely. And it was good to hear him chirping back at the press as well, because that's vintage Brooks. He's back if he's getting a chip on his shoulder from questions. That's actually, as much as it's kind of rude, it's good to see, because that's who he is, and that's kind of what you want out of Brooks, isn't it? He's the guy that you can love to hate in a way. And and he can kind of just be, like you say, be that alpha dog.
What'd you make of the 5-iron? What'd you make of the situation with his caddy? I mean, it looked pretty obvious to me. I mean, come on, it's like he's standing there. His caddy's yelling 5. Brooks has got 5. I mean, it was pretty apparent to me that he was tipping off Woodland what club he hit.
It did look like that, but just from that one angle, you can't, we have no idea who was behind. There could have been somebody behind it he was indicating it to. I just prefer to give the benefit of the doubt to the players, and I'd never want to call out a rules infringement like that, which it could just, Colin Morikawa's, I just thought that was definitely an infringement, and it clearly wasn't. and that's could well be the same thing with Brooks. It's you need more information, I think.
I watch these scenarios play out with Brooks, with Colin. I watch slow play. Cantlay, absurd. I mean, it's absurd. Like how slow he's playing. Love the Sam Bennett story, but he's slow. If you're going to have rules, then enforce them. You know,
100%.
like, enforce them. I mean, these are obvious rules infractions, right? Enforce the rules.
Yeah, I agree. Did you think that Cantlay was potentially doing that on purpose, where he was trying to slow play the final group? Or was he always like this? Because I haven't seen him be this slow before. I know he's quite deliberate with his pre-shot routine, but this seemed excessive.
It seemed more so this week. I think he's always been very deliberate and a bit slow, but was it on purpose? I don't think so. I wouldn't say he would do it on purpose, but my God, I mean, hit the ball. I mean, pick it up a little bit. This slow play, it just drives me nuts. You know, it's like, we know it's an issue. You're breaking the rule. Start enforcing the rule. Baseball here in America, Flush, did it. I mean, the MLB is as rigid as it gets, you know, as far as like protect the integrity of the game. Don't be changing much. And all of a sudden here now they put a pitch clock in and the game is speeding up. And I'm telling you right now, it's fantastic. It is fantastic. They can't overload the infield with, you know, these defensive switches and things like that. So it's like they've made some adjustments to the game to speed it up, enforce a little bit more offense, and it's fantastic. And it's like, come on, golf. You can do the same thing. You have rules. You have people breaking the rules right in front of your eyes. You have people slow playing over and over and over again. Get in there and enforce the rules.
Yeah, I totally agree. What's the point in having them if the only person that ever gets straight for slow play is a 14-year-old Chinese amateur? Like, it's just mad, isn't it?
It's just crazy.
I can't think of a slow play penalty that's been on the PGA Tour.
No.
Have you ever heard of one? I don't think I've ever.
The way I understand it, I had a caddy in here. 2 weeks ago we were talking about it, and the way that I understand it is each player gets 20 slow play warnings, or each group. So they're in the group and then they're behind. So that group gets a slow play. So each one of those get docked and they get 20 of them. And then after that, it starts becoming they start getting fined. And so it's like more of a group thing, as I understand, versus an individual. I mean, it's like start, piecing these individuals out and start clipping them, right? Start clipping them a stroke and then 2 strokes. And then someone else said, you know what they're going to do? They're going to start picking it up.
Yeah,
It's like in baseball now. It's like, okay, here comes the pitch. If you're late, you know what happens? It's a ball.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel, but I always play better when I play quicker. The more you think about golf, the harder it seems to get. So I don't really understand why they're so deliberate anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree. It's just gotten out of control. All right, back to the golf.
Yeah.
Look, let's go back to this love or hate, right? It's a lot of the dialogue with a lot of the LIV players, which kind of sucks, right? Because we lose some of those guys and the personalities on the PGA Tour. But here comes Phil. Love or hate. It was interesting watching the Masters with my parents who are in town. And they have always been big Phil fans, right? Especially my mom. They are the core audience that watches golf on TV. They are those people. I mean, the golf's on TV, they're watching it. And so they love Phil. And it was interesting to watch them and their reaction as Phil's driving up the leaderboard. And to hear them say, gosh, I don't want Phil to win. Like, it was kind of, it hit home a little bit. Yeah, they're like, I don't want Phil to win. Like, why? Like, well, I just don't like what he did, what he stands for and everything anymore. So that was their take, which I think is shared by a lot of that generation that watched Phil and what he meant to American golf and the thumbs up and all his charisma and all that. And so it was interesting just to kind of listen to that. But at the same time, you cannot deny how impressive it is to be 52 years of age and shoot 65 on Sunday in the Masters. I mean, I tip my cap to that guy. That was a great round of golf.
Is that his lowest round? I think I read it was his lowest round at Augusta ever. And he's shot a 31 back 9 on Sunday of the Masters, which is what he did when he won his first Masters in 2004. It's just absolutely incredible. Those 2 closing birdies as well. You could see he was zoned and how much it meant to him.
Yep.
It was, really good to see.
What do you think? and Mickelson and Spieth were really feeding off each other in that round, and that's fun to watch. And Augusta does a great job with the course and the Sunday setup, and really allowing for a player to move up the field and make some birdies down the stretch and post a number early, right? As Phil did, and as Jordan almost did. But when you kind of take a step back, and it's only been a half a day here since the Masters finished, but do you have an opinion on maybe what this Masters is going to do for LIV Golf? Because 3 were in the top 6. Mickelson and Koepka tied for second. Reed was the other that made the run up there. What does this do for LIV and the performance of these 3 and others that made the cut and played decent?
I think it does a lot. I really do. I think just seeing Phil Mickelson on TV and in contention will help his image, for one, because he was, towards the end, he said he had a lot of fun out there in his interview, and just seeing him on TV for a lot of people who haven't seen him for probably 12 months, and it's all been negative press. Like, he's been really run through the mill. I think it's going to be fantastic for Phil. But seeing Brooks back up there as well, and Patrick Reed making the challenge, it just proves that just because they've gone, as Harold Varner said, they haven't just lost their talents. It's not like they've suddenly disappeared because they're playing golf somewhere else. They're still the same golf as they were. They might not be competing at the same high level as the PGA Tour has week in, week out, but they're still great golfers, and they're still going to be working and grinding on their game and trying to prove themselves every single time they step it up in one of these majors.
See, I think some of the players are. I think Brooks has been working pretty hard. I don't think DJ's been working that hard. I know for a fact
he looks overweight, DJ, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't think Harold Varner has worked very hard. I know some people close to that camp. I don't think Hudson Swafford really wants to play much golf anymore. There's a lot of guys that I could list that went to LIV and are like, yeah, I took the money. Just like Harold Varner said, that's why we went over here, right? And so I get it. Like I certainly, if someone offered me a ton of money and this and that, I'd have to think long and hard, and I'd probably take it too, especially if I was Ian Poulter or Henrik Stenson. 46 years of age, tail end of my career, hard time to be competitive. You want to put how much money in my pocket to play? I'm like, so I get that. Cam Smith, I don't think came in with the same offseason, admittedly, as he spoke. So I think there's a lot of guys that pulled back because of the money and got comfy. But I do think there's some that still worked hard, like Brooks. I think there's a mixed bag with that, and I don't really think perhaps it's probably all that different in some regards for the PGA Tour, right? You get complacent from time to time, and then all of a sudden you need a reboot and off you go. But I think in the end, that's the guys playing pretty well, right? Having 3 guys up there, I do think does give the LIV some legitimacy. I really do.
Yeah, definitely. And you never know that these guys, they've had such a long off season that they might just start really cranking up their preparation now. It's like Phil Mickelson, he's been grafting really hard. This isn't just that much of a surprise. I mean, finishing as high as he did is a surprise, but playing well at the Masters isn't a surprise because he's had his eye on this and he's been really preparing and getting ready for this and grinding. He played some good golf at LIV down in Orlando as well. And yeah, I think he was starting to kind of trend towards this. And I think that a few of these guys will have a good major season because they're trying to peak their games for the major season, just like Tiger used to do. It's the same kind of mentality where you've got those 4 weeks a year over a 4-month period. And it's kind of all that matters, really. Like it's the only thing that matters for your legacy, in my opinion. So it might help them in a way.
If you're LIV, why don't you just play 72 holes? Like just play 72 holes. Like you've been able to attract all these people over. You've paid them a lot of money to do that. Now you're invested in the Asian tour, so you can build the funnel system and this and that. Like, just play 72 holes. Like just put it to rest. Give these guys what the official World Golf ranking is asking for, which I think has become obsolete. I'll admit that, but just meet in the middle a little bit, play 72 holes, do a couple of the things that they're looking for, and all of a sudden now you're getting official World Golf ranking points in no time, aren't you?
Yeah, that's true, but their business model revolves around that, doesn't it? So I'm not sure why they decided to do that, but they, where Greg Norman started up, he said that he'd surveyed fans, and this is apparently what people want, was a shortened version of golf. So maybe that's just what it is, but it might also be better for the players to have the 3 rounds, I guess, because they then have an extra day during the week to prepare or to spend time at home or whatever they're doing. So I don't know. It's obviously part one of those things that they can't just change at a whim. But if the OWGR did tell them that you have to meet this criteria, you have to have 72 holes, then they probably might think about it.
Yeah,
certainly from the conversations I've had, but I don't know if they've actually even been told exactly what they need to do to get OWGR. So there's these criteria.
I think it's pretty well laid out for them, like what they need to do. I mean, the rules are in place as far as the grace period, right, and those things to make sure that you're legitimate. It kind of like they have to have some policies in place where someone in Southern Florida who has more money than they know what to do with and says, hey, we're going to start our own tour and we're going to get these people to play, and I've got a lot of money and I'll fund it, and we'll get official World Golf. Like they have to kind of weed out some of the craziness that kind of comes about it. But I know you've been a big supporter of LIV, and what I've appreciated with you and your posts is you've been able to, I think, look at it objectively with both of them, right? Like there's the PGA Tour, there's LIV Tour, there's DP World Tour, and you're just kind of a fan of all professional golf, right? Where a lot of the media has drawn the line pretty quickly. They're saying, look, we're PGA Tour and we don't like what LIV is doing at all, and we will never like it, period, right? Like they've drawn the line and you have to pick. And so much of that is like that in America. It's like politics. You're either on this side, you're on this side. And you can't look at it at all. Like, gosh, I know I kind of tend to be more on this side, but I really don't like what we're doing here. Like you would never say that publicly, right? Because you have to be on one side or the other. And so for me, I've always tried. Look, I've looked at LIV. I've watched it. I've been open-minded about it. There are some things I like about it, but I'll throw this out at you. What bothers me the most with it is I just have a hard time taking it serious when I watch it. I don't think the players really take it as serious as they did when they were on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but maybe that's what they're aiming at. I posted last year and I said that if you don't like LIV and its change of format, then it's probably not aimed at you, because the golf's done the same thing for 100 years. Right. Like the tours have literally, every single tour has the same format every single week. And we're not getting that many new watchers into the game. Like Tiger obviously brought a load more fans, but since him, without Tiger, I think golf could really have hit a bubble. And they're trying to do something different because it's a market that's there that's ripe for disruption. So they're not trying to appease to like the traditional golf fan that watches the PGA Tour religiously week in, week out. That's not their market. I think they're trying to go more for the party golf scene that you see on Instagram, where you've got these accounts which have got like 200,000 followers or whatever, and they're more about having a good time than they are like competitive golf. And I think they're almost trying to get like a Phoenix Open 14 times a year is what I think their aim is. So it's just a different thing for me. I don't look at it. I'm not looking at it like it's a Riviera, like, because it isn't. I don't think anyone's trying to pretend that it is. So you just have to kind of separate them and see the PGA Tour for what it is and LIV for what it is, and they're just different things. And I think once you accept that, then you can kind of enjoy LIV a bit more, I think.
Do you think long term that model that you're describing is the best model, because let's face it, they're attracting players over there for what they're paying them, right? These players aren't just going to pack up and go over there and play for the same amount of money. They're just not going to do it. They know where the legacy is. They know where the competitive, top to bottom fields are. Like, they're just not going to go over there and make the same amount of money. It has to be a significant, life-changing in many regards money for them to even consider to take the jump. And so they start clipping off some of these big names. Is it the right model and field to get the most out of these world-class players year in and year out? Or will we see more complacency down the road like we saw with DJ? And even Cam Smith admitted, like, yeah, I just didn't have the same offseason.
Well, the big things that people seem to forget is that there's a ton of guys at the moment. I'm not sure exactly how many it is, but they're on multi-year deals. So they don't have to worry about the relegation process at the moment. But that is going to come in, where you'll have to finish, like say Blandy. I know Richard Bland really well, and he has to finish top 24 this year to get his card again for next year. Otherwise, he's then going to be banned from the DP World Tour. He can't go and do anything on the PGA Tour because he's banned from there. So he's going to be trying so hard to come in the top half of that order of merit because he needs playing rights for next season. And That's the compelling part. If like say I don't know who the guys that are struggling, like a Graham McDowell, for example, or even Henrik Stenson, if they're looking at the end of the season and they're not a captain and they're suddenly thinking, wow, I might not have any playing rights on any tour next year, then they're going to have to start getting their fingers out of their arse and start practicing. So there is going to be, in the coming years, there will be a compelling storyline there where they're going to have to try on LIV, and it will be much more competitive.
Let's switch the conversation to the PGA Tour. You were a very good player. Notice the name.
Thank you.
Flush. notice the name Flush. Ball striking machine over there. Stripe show. Flush on Stripe show. There you have it.
Yes, perfect.
Let's talk about the PGA Tour for a second. I'm curious on your answer on this. I know you're dialed in with a lot of resources over there, a lot of players over there, DP World Tour players, etc. You look at the changes on the PGA Tour. You look at now the elevated events. You look at what has happened with the best players, perhaps led by Rory McIlroy, going in and saying, well, this is the way we're going to do business now on the PGA Tour because we have all the leverage, right? How is it perceived over there with the elevated events and what's happening on the PGA Tour right now as you see it?
Well, the first thing really is how much it's going to affect European Tour players, because they've normally been able to get starts in the big events on the PGA Tour, and now they're not going to be able to do that. Like, no one's going to be able to get into RIV next year. I think this year there was a few that played, like Moronk played. Obviously Thomas Peters didn't play, and that's partly why he got upset and moved to LIV. But that's one of the big effects. But it's also, I just find it quite fascinating that it's always been about, like, the PGA Tour line for Monahan has always been about legacy and not leverage. But now we're clearly seeing that the players have used leverage. Some of them have as well. I don't think this is, I think that it's okay to say this, but some players have definitely had negotiations with LIV and were looking for big amounts of money that wasn't paid for whatever reason. And they've obviously used that to go back and use as leverage for the tour to get what they want. So I think it's quite a fascinating scenario that now you have the players that are led by Tiger and Rory that have basically just set up a whole system that now seems to benefit them more than it does the tour itself and the average member.
Is it the Rory Tour? Is a lot of them look at it as like it's the Rory Tour? It's almost like before there was the Tiger. It was the Tiger Tour, the tournaments that he played in, right? And now it's the elevated events. Do a lot of players over there like, yeah, it's just the Rory Tour now over there. They're doing what he wants to do.
I mean, I've been trying to speak to a lot of European Tour members recently, and I've spoken to Ryder Cuppers, some real European stalwarts about it, and they all seem to think the same, that we appear over here just as much as the PGA Tour is. They seem to be bending the rules and just making things to suit, like Rory McIlroy and players like him. And one of the things that frustrates me a lot is that Rory doesn't regularly come back and play over here. And he's done that now. I called it out last year before I had a big following, but people seem to think that I've now only just got a problem with it because of LIV, but that's not true. Like, he didn't play the Irish last year when he was in the country for a Pro-Am. Like, that's just, like, John Rahm wouldn't do that. John Rahm's played the Spanish every single year and he keeps winning it. I'd like to see Rory actually spend more time in continental Europe and in the UK and Ireland, and support these home events rather than doing everything he can to elevate the PGA Tour. Because at the moment, like, we got the Ryder Cup coming up in Rome, and we used to have Seve would like be Europe through and through and through, but Rory seems to be PGA Tour through and through and through, and that's just a hard thing for me to get my head around. And a lot of European Tour members, which I speak to, have this very similar feeling. So.
The DP World Tour just won its case in the courtroom over LIV, which basically means now that the league can fine the members. It can suspend the players, just no different than what's happening or has been happening, I should say, on the PGA Tour. So the PGA Tour and DP World Tour, we know the strategic alliance that was put in place, but now even legally, now they are even more aligned. When you look at that come down, I know you've been very passionate since that ruling came down last week. What is happening right now with the DP World Tour, and how would you say, with your relationships with a lot of these players, what is the attitude and the tone and how they think things are going now on the heels of now this ruling in the courtroom?
Well, no, nobody I've spoken to is happy. I've asked for people to reach out. I've reached out to people I know, and I haven't had a single person that thinks that the changes are positive for the European DP World Tour. The only real benefit is that they said that they're securing the prize purses for the next, I think it's quite a long time, like over 10 years, which is obviously good. But when you're going to lose your talent, so we're going to lose our 10 best players every single season are going to go to America. They're not, if they lose their cards, they won't come back. They'll go to the KFT because there's 30 cards from the KFT and only 10 from the European Tour. So why would you come back? Mm-hmm. And then they've also had this opportunity to take talent from LIV and to keep our Ryder Cup heroes, and players like Phil Mickelson said that he'd play on the European Tour if they won the case, and he's not now can't do that. So why would you decline the opportunity to have Phil Mickelson playing at Wentworth when you could then have we just seen at the Masters, or even in Dubai, when you have LIV and PGA Tour players together, it makes the competition better. It gets more eyeballs. So why would you purposely devalue your product? And why would you go to the arbitration court to get a ruling in your favour on that? I can't get my head around it. It seems like terrible business practice for one, and it just feels like a self-harm, and it's just completely unnecessary, in my opinion. And everyone feels.
Yeah, everyone that you've talked to is pretty much. So there's a lot of conversations happening right now at the DP World Tour headquarters with Commissioner Pelly, right? Like, and with the players coming in there and probably really questioning some of the decisions that are happening. And basically now, to your point, for all intents and purposes, it's become a feeder system to the PGA Tour, and they're losing their top 10 players every year.
It is, yes. And like I say, I have spoken to a lot of people that have been in players' meetings last year, and like Keith Pelly has regularly used the term a pathway to the PGA Tour, which, although they won't admit that the DP World Tour is a feeder tour, he's basically saying that. Yeah. And if you're going to lose your 10 best players every single season, that's a feeder tour. And it's just a real shame, because I don't know how you get players to come and play in Europe. Like our home players, like Rory, like as you said, he doesn't really seem to come back that often. He's saying that he might do more, and they might have some like more co-sanctioned events next season, which would be great. But they're basically they're going to play from January to mid-September in America, and then that entire summer season where we used to have great events, they're just going to disappear. We've already lost the Welsh Open, and it's just going to keep trending that way now. Because once you lose the talent, as we know, the sponsors aren't going to want to put the money in. TV aren't going to want to coverage it. But the DP World Tour social media channels didn't even cover the last event in South Africa properly. So yeah, I don't know. I can't see. I really don't know.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, you're disappointed, right? As a fan, someone who lives over there, someone who's so invested in the DP World Tour, which of course used to be called the European Tour. And the European Tour, I remember when I was young, these guys were. There was a lot of big names over there. It was very competitive tour. It was a competitor to the PGA Tour. Obviously, there were some things that they would do together, but they were their own individual tours. And so to see the talent from top to bottom diminish as much as it has from the DP World Tour, considering, and I even said when LIV came about, I didn't understand. If I was Commissioner Pelly and I wanted to continue to really grow my DP World Tour and strengthen its position, and I'm already playing in Saudi Arabia every single year, and now I have an investor from Saudi Arabia wanting to do business. Now, I don't know what the terms were, and all that, and maybe it was a bad deal. I don't know. But my goodness, what an opportunity that could have been if that would have transpired, if LIV would have plugged into the DP World Tour, they would have became a partnership. On the surface, it makes sense, but obviously deals fall apart for different reasons.
But so Keith Pelly, he took the meeting with it was brokered by DP World, which are now the title sponsor of the European Tour, obviously, and they had the meeting with the Saudis. And Pelly, from what I have been told, was quite positive about the opportunity that was there, and he took it back to the board, and it was just shut down and rejected without it being taken to the membership. And that seems to be a common theme, that the members don't seem to be being asked about various things. They don't seem to be being consulted on these big decisions. And even Richie Ramsey put on Twitter the other day that he learned more from a Sky Sports article from Paul McGinley than has been told about what's going on in the tour that he's a member of. Wow. So when Keith Petty came out and had the video last week, and we just kept saying it's all about the members, we're protecting our members, but the membership don't know what's going on and they don't seem to have a voice. I don't really understand where Keith Petty's motivation lies, because I don't think he's protecting the membership. The membership don't think he's protecting the membership. So who is he protecting? What is his aim? What is he trying to achieve here? Because he's certainly not. He's not growing the European Tour. It's very clearly devaluing. And I've got a business. I'm in my office now. If I had him running one of my businesses, he'd be gone, because he's just making bad decision after bad decision.
Mm-hmm. Let's finish up with just a little LIV discussion here. Covering all the grounds here. PGA Tour, DP World Tour. We might as well just talk about the Asian Tour while we're at it too here. But when you look at go back to the LIV Tour, because they got a pretty robust schedule. They're going to go to Australia. They're going to play. Sounds like the crowds are going to be pretty good there. Australia is starving for this kind of tournament and these names coming down and playing. So I have no doubt that it's going to be.
They are pumped, but they really are. I talked to a lot of Aussies. They can't wait.
Right. And then Singapore, very wealthy place. It'll be interesting to see what will happen there. And then they'll come back to Tulsa. And then just like that, we'll be at the PGA Championship, just like that, where Justin Thomas is the defending champ. Yeah, Justin won it at Southern Hills, right, over Mito Pereira.
Forget that playoff. What a playoff that was last year.
Right. Yeah, JT kind of came back. Remember, kind of snuck back in it.
Was he? And
Mito knocked it in the water. Mito knocked it in the water on the last hole.
And then he beat Will Zalatoris with that rope. Was it a freebid on 17 that he just ropes onto the green? That was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. You look at LIV. What do you like about it first and foremost? What are the things that you really enjoy about LIV, the league, the presentation, all the things that go into the team competition? Share your thoughts with me on that.
Let's take it back. The first thing that intrigued me about LIV was that I want to see international golf grow, and I saw how much they'd invested into the Asian Tour, and having this international series is great for these Asian golfers. There's so much young talent out there, like that young 15-year-old Rachanan Chantananuwat, he's won an Asian Tour event already, and he was the youngest player to ever break into the top 300 of the official world rankings. We're just seeing so much talent like that they need events to play, and so LIV putting the money into the Asian Tour really piqued my interest. But then Richard Bland, who I know really well, he joined, so I went to the event at Centurion and followed him around. And it was just fun. It was just chill. Like, you could basically do what you wanted there. It wasn't the same as going to a regular event. The crowd was slightly different. It was like a festival of golf, like the music blaring. I know a lot of traditionalists don't like that, but it is a cool feel. And it's the kind of thing which, if they do it properly and they do the teams properly, I believe they can definitely bring a new market into golf. And it's certainly internationally, like, they're obviously struggling to get a foothold in North America at the moment with the court cases and with what's going on. It's just the general feel. Like, there's people that just hate LIV in North America, and they're going to struggle to break big time into that market. So to succeed, they're going to have to grow markets around the world. They're going to have to go to Asia and grow markets there. They're going to have to play golf in Australia and start bringing in more fans there. And if they do that, and then it's just a good thing for golf. If we have more people watching and playing golf in South America, Asia, Australia, wherever, then that's a really positive thing. And that's what I liked the most about LIV. So.
Yeah. I think in North America here, a lot of it is obviously the PGA Tour has a strong hold on it. I think obviously the Saudi ties and some of those human rights issues, right, that they have over there that are well documented, and really questioning what is the intent of this investment group. Are they really wanting to do the right thing for the sport, right, and grow it, or is it more of a sports washing exercise? Which ironically, just here in North America, 60 Minutes, which is on CBS right after the Masters, did a whole series on sports washing and what is Saudi Arabia really after here? Not just with LIV, but what they did with Ronaldo and soccer and racing and things like that. Because they're investing a lot in a lot of sports.
Yeah, of course. Well,
not just in golf.
they're just doing what Dubai's done. Like, we're quite used to it over in Europe. Like, Dubai came into the market, the golf market, in the early 90s, and that country has changed beyond recognition. Like, I think they're building a casino next year. Like, they've just completely changed. They've westernized. They're trying to bring people there for tourism. And just from my opinion, they're just doing it just to try and westernize. And it's a lot of I totally understand why people have a problem with Saudi Arabian money, but it's just capitalism. It's peak capitalism, where I do a job, I don't question where the money's coming from. I've done a lot of work on interiors on super yachts, and I've worked on Roman Abramovich's super yacht Eclipse. I never once thought to myself, oh, I better not do this job. Like, I didn't question where that cash was coming from. You just do it because that's capitalism, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I understand why people have a problem with Saudi, but I just think it's overdone. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's more sensitive here in North America, obviously, than it is in any part of the world, especially in Europe. It seems to be not as much of an issue over there. Although I would have to think a lot of there would have been some issues. I think if the DP World Tour probably would have aligned with LIV, there would have been their traditionalists that would have probably pushed back from that. But I think maybe
they sold the
not as much because they were already doing business with them anyway.
They've sold the naming rights to Dubai ports. Yeah. It's still in the UAE. It's still a conservative Islamic country. It's not, they've got a much better human rights record at the moment, but there was a time when they came into golf when, they were doing some bad things too. And no one called that out.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is. And how much of this will wear off perhaps as time goes, because it does seem like LIV is committed, obviously for 3 years. This is year 2. A lot of these guys will have to play that out into next year. Do you think that, because obviously they're hemorrhaging money right now. I know they're picking up a few sponsors here and there. They're not getting the TV views that they want in North America. It'd be interesting to honestly have them tell it. Are they happy where they're at from a sponsorship standpoint, from an eyeball standpoint? They're not going to give you a real answer. They're going to spin everything, that. But I would have to think that they're probably very happy with who they have playing, right? Who they've been able to accumulate in the way of talent. But I don't think they're probably exactly where they want to be from a sponsorship and revenue coming back in standpoint. So are they willing, do you think, after 3 years, if they're in the similar position, to continue just to put in billions and billions and billions of dollars in the golf sector?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but they released a statement last week about the DP World Tour hearing. And in that was that really, I found it fascinating wording, where they talked about a decades long approach to growing the game of golf. So if they're saying they have a decades long approach, and they seem to be really investing in markets, they're spending a lot of money in the women's game. People seem to forget that. But they've sponsored a lot of young European golfers, a lot of young Asian golfers, and they seem to be investing in the long term of this. And I don't see it going away in 2-3 years. There's a lot of things people make a big deal about, say Greg Norman being let go at LIV, but that's not the feel I'm getting when I speak to people from LIV. Whether they're just spinning it, I don't know, but it doesn't feel like that to me at all. People made a big deal about Brooks Koepka not wearing his LIV logos, but I tweeted in January that he wasn't going to because he's still got a clothing deal. So it's not like he didn't do that because out of choice. He's got a deal with somebody already. So once that ends, I think he'll probably be the same as a DJ or a Phil Mickelson, and he will have his logos on. I don't know. I think that they're much more invested in this and have a much longer outlook than what people realize.
Awesome. Okay, fair enough. So we got the PGA coming up. We'll get the boys back together in a month. But it was cool to see. I'll finish with this. I mean, look, I know it's all business, right? And people go and do things because they get a better deal over there. But at the end of the day, as a fan, it was awesome to see everybody back together. You can see that I'm sure there is some hard feelings here and there with certain players, I'm sure. But for the most part, I mean, these guys, look, they've been on the road together for years together, and they're tight and they're close, and they can look past different decisions, and they understand that. It was cool to see Brooks and back together with Woodland, and you could see that he genuinely likes playing with John Rahm, and these guys getting back together. It was like the band getting back together playing professional golf again, and that was cool to see. I wish we could see more of it, but that's not the world we live in, and we'll just have to wait till the PGA, at Oak Hill.
Well, we could have seen more of it on the European tour. It's a shame, but yeah, I agree. It's what it has done is it's really put the majors on a pedestal, and now those 4 events a year are just going to be something else. Yeah, it's I can't wait for the PGA. I can't wait for the Open. I can't wait for the US Open.
It's strengthened it's strengthened the majors even more. You know, I mean,
yeah,
just when you think the Masters couldn't be any stronger, it's stronger. I mean, it was probably the most anticipated Masters I can remember. I don't think it delivered to the expectation. I don't think probably anything could. But I mean, the anticipation was enormous, and it's going to be again for the PGA, and it's going to be again for the US Open, and it's going to be again for the Open Championship, especially if Cam Smith wins the PGA, right? Or Abraham Answer wins the US Open. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to happen when LIV clips one of these off, and no one's going to be surprised by that. Like, if you have a functional brain at all, like, these guys know how to play golf just because they went to LIV.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's where it just drives me nuts. Well, the media says that just because they went to LIV means they can't. No, they don't. I mean, come on, stop. Don't play the victim.
How good was it to look down the Masters odds list and see things like when Brooks Koepka was 90-1 3 weeks ago? Like, it's just amazing how much value there was, and hopefully that continues because there's some money to be made.
Yeah, I think from a gambling standpoint, it's probably tough for Vegas to figure out where to position some of those guys, you know, especially in week 1. You know, I think there was a certain unknown, knowing that there would be some diminishing of skills just because these guys getting paid, and a lot of them admitted that they weren't working quite as hard, so it was probably hard to put that number on it, you know. When DJ comes in 10 pounds heavier and Cam Smith's like, I just kind of kept the clubs away a little too long this year, and you know, so they'll catch up, they'll reset to it as this kind of plays out, another major and then another major, and what does really all of this mean? And I think it'll be I don't think we'll really know what the long-term effect is, if any, one way or the other, for the better or for the worse, for probably a couple years.
No, yeah, very true. But I think now, maybe because there's less transfers coming on during the season than what we had last year, I think the bad blood is going to start to go away now. And I think come the end of the year, I think that LIV will be much more accepted, and I just think it would just be another tour that people just kind of watch if they want to watch, and don't watch if they don't want to watch. So
that's right. Yep. All right, Flush, we appreciate it. Go follow him at Flush.
Thanks, Travis.
He does some great stuff. All right, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I know you have another job. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Cheers.